Welcome back to the podcast. And I'm excited. We've got an amazing guest today, and his name is Bo Royal. And he's are you the owner or co-owner of Pareto Legal?
Co-owner.
Okay. So, Bo, do you want to give us a little bit of background about yourself and Pareto Legal?
Sure. So, as you said, Bo Royal, CEO and co-founder of Pareto Legal. We are a digital marketing agency that specializes in advertising, conversion rate optimization, and analytics for law firms.
Welcome to your Profitable Law Firm podcast. I'm Kelly Brubaker, your dedicated host, passionate about empowering law firm owners. Let's dive into the hidden strategies that lead to overflowing profits, scaled growth, and thriving lives. This is where overwhelm transforms into confidence, enabling you to create and enjoy your dream firm and your dream life.
My background before founding this agency was mostly in the digital marketing space, but I worked at several agencies before joining a injury law firm in Philadelphia 7 years ago, and I was their chief marketing officer. So I kind of have this like weird Venn diagram of experience in terms of digital marketing. I did a lot with like large e-commerce clients the first 10 years of my career. And then I did a bit of a 180 and ended up at this injury law firm in Philly. And that's where I really cut my teeth with all things marketing and advertising, specifically for the legal niche. And it's a very different animal. It's a very different beast.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been a great journey so far. And really the agency that I have today brings all of that experience to our clients, in that, we have a lot of like big business, big company experience. Because again, like one of the biggest clients I've worked with was Calvin Klein. They were spending like $20 million a month just on their Google advertising spend. But I brought all those learnings with me to the law firm I ended up working with. And then I learned all of the ins and outs of what it takes to run a successful, law firm, from everything from the intake to the marketing all the way to the ops, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of good learnings over the last 15 years of my career.
Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah. So wasn't wasn't he a Calvin Klein model back in the 80s? Or am I thinking a different?
That's a little bit before my time, but
well, I'm old. I'm sorry.
But I think you're right. I'm pretty sure he's been a spokesperson for the Calvin Klein campaign.
Oh my goodness. But no, that's awesome. So, and I love when you talk about Venn diagram, because you're right. I feel like a similar. So I'm a CPA. I started auditing big companies, Rubbermaid, Nestle, like crazy, L'Oreal, went into the banking, and then kind of went into banking as internal CFO, and then was like, well, time out. I'd rather start working with, small business owners, local people, real people who own and are building real things. And so I've had my accounting firm now for 20 years. And for probably about the last 15 or so, I've specialized in law firms. So it is just an amazing space. I love the group. I love the dynamic. I love the different practice areas and how each of them, have their own focus and the way they do things. And it's just a very dynamic group. And so I really love, and so I kind of feel like same thing with the little Venn diagram with all the different, aspects and how they all come together.
I feel the same way. And the real reason I didn't, specify this, but the reason I ended up moving out of the big agency world and into the legal space was I was becoming disillusioned with being a small cog in a big wheel. I wanted to have a real impact on the businesses that I was touching. And so that's why I ended up joining this firm 7 years ago, because I wanted to see the fruits of my labor, right? And thankfully that was an amazing experience. It taught me everything I know in regards to legal marketing, and I've gotten to work with hundreds of law firms since.
Yeah, no, and I had similar experience. I was CFO of a small publicly traded bank at one point, and I'd have one phone call with a shareholder, who's, really grumbling about why is my dividend not higher? And I'm like, well, and then, then the next phone call is a teller worrying about a check. And I'm like, hey, can I come and talk to the customer? Well, they had left. And it was just like, I just didn't feel like there was a major impact in the people
Yep.
that I felt like I was too high up, that it was just it was just a weird dynamic. But I've really loved, the things that I'm doing now and the firms that I work with. And um, so let's talk about marketing. So as a CPA, I love numbers, and a lot of things that I, talk to my clients about are numbers. And I don't always focus on dollars on their P&L. So I try to take a step back, and just what you were talking about, where it's a holistic approach. You're trying to figure out, from leads all the way to client intake, like through that whole process, signing, your retainer agreements and getting your first deposit, or however, depending on what type of law you practice, all the way until the case closes. Like I try to understand with my clients what their process looks like, and, can we, improve it? And, so if I have a client that'll say, hey, I want to grow, and I'll say, okay, well, what do your leads look like? And sometimes that's, like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, where do your leads come from? Let's start talking there. And so let's talk about what are your like favorite analytics, and what are the types of conversations that you have with clients to, what should they focus on? To because mostly if they're marketing, they want to grow, right? Or at least maintain where they are, not shrink. So what are your thoughts on, analytics that firms should look at?
Yeah, I mean, this is where my e-commerce background has been really helpful, in that, if you work with any e-commerce business, they are tracking every single little thing in the business, right? Um, Law firms are a different beast. I do think relative to other industries, like legal is still a little bit behind the curve in terms of like analytics and all the things that they should be tracking. But, when I'm talking to a potential law firm client, one of the first things I'm asking is like, where are you at currently? Like,
Yeah.
walk me through on an average basis, like monthly basis, like, how many leads are you generating? How many of those leads are qualified? How many of them are attorney qualified? And then how many are you
Yeah.
retaining as clients, right? So like let's establish a baseline. And then what does success look like? Like if you want to grow, like what do you want to grow to? Like if you're
Yeah.
doing opening, 20 motor vehicle accident cases per month, what does success look like? Do you want to go from 20 to 25? Do you want to go from 20 to 100 a month, right? Um,
Right.
so it's like understanding what the aspirations are, what those specific targets are, and that enables me and my team to come back to them with a plan that is tailored to that desired outcome, right? Because going from 20 to 25 a month is very different than going from 20 to 100 a month, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
but and there are budget implications there. There are staffing implications there. Like a lot of firms, if you were to generate an incremental 10, 15, 20 cases a month, it would break their business, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It terrifies me sometimes.
So you have to kind of go through all of that thought exercise to come up with a a a viable game plan. And a lot of um you know we're talking to a firm right now. I'll give a story. We're talking to a prospective client right now. They're spending $5 million dollars a year on marketing and advertising. They
Mhm.
can't answer basic questions about how many qualified leads they're generating per month, what their
Oh,
conversion rate is on qualified leads. And my point in bringing this up is when firms want to grow, I think there's a tendency to think that the onus is on marketing. It's like, oh,
yeah.
we need more leads.
Yeah. No.
That is not the sole part of the equation.
Yeah.
And I saw this analogy. I don't. This isn't mine. I'm stealing this from someone else in the legal marketing space. But I saw this analogy the other day, and it was like, um, firms think they need to go and pick more oranges when really they just need to do a better job of squeezing the juice out of the existing ones they
Oh,
have.
I like that one. That's a good analogy.
And so when we're speaking with firms, before we even start working with them on the marketing side of things, we want to make sure, number one, they have a clear vision of where they want to get to. Well,
Yeah.
let me go back. They know where they are currently. They have a clear vision of where they want to get to. They're tracking all of these things with some degree of precision,
Yeah.
and they are able to handle any influx in leads or cases that we generate for them. So those are some big things that we want to vet and make sure, are all buttoned up before we start spending, their hard-earned dollars on their behalf.
Yeah. And I love that approach. I, between what I like as an owner of a company myself, what pitches I get, blind, oh, I'll get you number one on Google. I'm like, but so some of the conversations I've had, but then what I've seen, my clients go through, and I'm like, yeah, but really the proof is in the metrics. Like not only do you have to have the infrastructure, you have to be prepared for the growth, but you've got to track it, and tracking is where you prove that what you were told is happening. So I definitely, I find that to be a key, a vital thing. So when so a client signs up with you, what do cadence, like what do you meet with them? Like what does a typical month look like in a relationship with you?
Sure. So the first like 3 to 6 months are very unique, right? Because a lot of it is going through discovery and making some big optimizations in terms of, how they're investing their ad dollars, what types of pages they have built, how they're positioned within their market, right? So we're
Yeah.
making a lot of the high impact work is happening in that critical, 30, 60, 90, 180 days, right? So that's all very unique to the client that we're working with. Nothing we do is cookie cutter per se, because every firm is different in terms of their goals, the practice area that they're focusing on, the target market that they're in or markets they're in. They might be a multi-location practice, right?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
So that that really depends on what we identify in our initial assessment. So we don't sell, like, again, cookie cutter retainers where it's like, hey, like, sign up with us for a year and we'll get you all these cases. It's like, no, we start all of our engagements with a paid assessment. So we will
Okay.
come in, we will look under the hood. We'll ask our prospective clients to complete a pretty robust questionnaire where we ask all these questions about, qualified intake conversion rates. How is their intake department staffed? Do they have a call center? Are they able to take calls 24/7, 365?
Mm.
What CRM are they using? Um,
Oh yeah.
like all of these important upfront questions we get out of the way at the onset, um, and then we look under the hood and see, where are they investing their marketing dollars currently? Are they tracking everything properly? Do they have a call tracking solution? Are they tracking all their form submits? Is this data getting pushed into their CRM so they can effectively attribute leads and cases to different marketing tactics, right? So
Yeah.
we're basically, I use the analogy like it's the X-ray before surgery, right? Like
Oh
our
yeah.
our assessment is, here's everything that's working well, here's everything that isn't, and here are, the different things that we want to do surgery on, so to speak, if we were
Right.
to work together. And that sets the stage for what the initial, again, 30, 60, 90, 180 days looks like.
Yeah.
Once we get through the surgery, if you will, it's really helping the firm, like, ramp up their campaigns once we have that proper foundation in place. So, um, again, this is going to vary on a client by client basis, but, one of the firms that we work with, for example, they want to dominate the, I won't name the city, but it's a city within Tennessee, right? They want to
Okay. Okay.
dominate in that city. So it's like helping them first identify, all right, what are the main practice areas or two that you want to focus on in that given city? And then making sure that they have local pages built out for that, making sure that we're buying the right keywords and we're building the proper audiences within that target market, and that, people are seeing them 24/7, 365,
Right.
and they're associating that firm with that given practice area, right? I have other
Right.
clients that are like, we want to expand to 3 new states over the next, 12 months. So it's helping them come up with a plan for, all right, we need to build Google business profiles. We need to build out more pages. We need to like do some competitor research in each of those markets to understand how those firms are talking about, how they handle cases versus the others, right? So it's again, it's very different. Going back to what you were just talking about before about like tracking and data, I honestly view us, and I think this will become more true over time, as a data company disguised as a marketing agency. And I think
Mm.
this is where like marketing agencies that keep up with the changing times, where they're heading. Because let's face it, like pay per click, SEO, all of these tactics, they're becoming a commodity.
Yeah.
They're becoming increasingly more automated with AI. I'd argue you can offshore a lot of that talent to some extent too, and get great resources in the Latin America market, South Africa, um, Asia. Like there's really a level playing field now as it pertains to each of these individual tactics. Where there's a gap and where there's a big opportunity is helping firms track their data, track all the things happening within their practices, make sense of that information, and then use
Yeah.
that to help them identify a true north down the line, right?
Yeah.
And so my point in saying all that is that is really what we're doing these days. Yes, I am a digital marketing agency owner. We do offer those services, but the real value is in all the things I just mentioned. It's helping the firms create these systems, make sense of their data so that they can confidently make these big bet investments in a local service ad campaign, in an SEO campaign, and ultimately position themselves well for the long term. Because, it's if if you're a law firm today in 2025 and you're not tracking these things, it's only a matter of time until someone swoops in
Yeah.
and eats your lunch, right? Um,
Yeah.
you need to kind of learn from the Goliaths in your market. We all know who they are, the Morgan and Morgans, the
Yeah.
top dogs.
Yeah.
You better believe that they are tracking all of these things with the utmost precision. Um, if you're still using Excel, or you're using your inbox to
Right.
keep track of your clients and this and that, like it's only a matter of time until someone swoops in and takes market share
Yeah.
from you. So I forget the original question. I'm sorry for the
I think
long
I did
rant, but
too.
this is the value of podcasts, right? It's in the long rant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, I love everything you said. And so I'm a fractional CFO for clients and I have a very similar approach. I know nobody really wants to look at their numbers, right?
Yep.
Um, but like for me, I bring the value by saying, okay, yeah, here's your P&L, but I'm going to tell you the story. You can look at the numbers so you can see that, the literal numbers, but I am going to give you the story. You made more money. You spent too much. You didn't save for taxes. I'm going to talk to you. So I like that you have those conversations. It's not just throwing a report and saying, here, I'll see you next month. Because I think that's where the value is. I think that's, exactly what you said. That's the value. It's, yes, you have to track the numbers because you need that to be able to understand what's happening, and to make better choices. But yeah, I love this approach. So let me ask you, I know I've talked to different people in your position throughout the legal industry, and a lot seem to, I don't know if I want to say shy away, but just focus more on B2C. So firms that are doing personal injury, immigration seem to be like the big, as opposed to supporting small businesses, contract law, just because it's a different focus. Do you do something similar, or are you like, I'm good, doesn't matter if you're a law firm, I'm good, I'll work with you no matter what your offerings are? What are your thoughts on B2C versus B2B marketing?
Yeah, no, we're mostly focused on, I mean, we're exclusively focused on B2C, so plaintiff-based
Okay.
law firms, right? We're not working with
Yeah.
corporate attorneys or anything
Okay. Okay.
like that. Um, I actually I want to go back and ask you a question, if that's okay, about yeah. Let's flip the script here. I
Yes, fair game. Anything is fair game here. What's up?
it so P&L, like obviously
Mhm.
that is your true north when you're looking at a law firm. Do you find that like, and I've talked about this with other CFOs. It's like the P&L is like the postmortem almost.
Yeah.
Like it's like the ultimate lag indicator of how the firm's doing, but you can't be
Right.
using your P&L to optimize the business either in real time or like with a future mindset. Does that make sense?
1,000%. Oh no,
Okay.
1,000%. I actually tell people I want you to break up with your P&L for that exact reason.
Right.
Because one of two things is usually the conversation. Somebody will hand me their P&L and they'll say, my revenue for, this time period, whatever it is, was a million. It was only $1 million. And I'm like, well, what did you want it to be? $2 million. Okay. But for me, that's a vanity metric. Like your top line revenue doesn't mean shit, right?
Right.
Because that doesn't mean how much money's in your bank. Like to me,
Yep.
because if you made $1 million revenue, top line gross revenue, but you spent 1,000,001, you have a net loss of 100,000. That's bad. So
Yeah.
even if your goal was to hit 1 million in revenue, like I'm happy for you, but you spent so much money that you have a loss and you have no money in the bank. And oh, by the way, you probably didn't take a paycheck because you were paying all your staff. So, so for me, or this the second part is if they don't focus on gross revenue, they focus on net income, which is still good. But depending on the way your firm is taxed, if you're the only owner and you're a sole proprietor, or an LLC owner, you don't have a paycheck. So your draws are not reflected on your P&L. So you're like, oh my God, I just made $200,000. And I'm like, yeah, but you have no money in the bank because you took 300,000 out in distributions. So there's no correlation. Just because you have a number here doesn't equal a number here. And for me, it's about money in the bank. If you don't have money in the bank, you're toast. Like there's
Yep.
just no getting around that, right? So I definitely encourage, commonly I will say break up with your P&L because it's a liar, because it doesn't tell you the whole story. I focus more actually on the statement of cash flows
Yep.
because it will tell you, yes, here's what your net income was for the period, but it's going to tell you all those things. Did you invest in, did you buy new computer equipment? Did you buy all your staff new computers? Did you renovate a new office? What about all the debt you have? How much did you pay back in debt? How many distributions did you take as a partner? So that gives you more information. But then I like to supplement it with metrics. So not to, I don't want to hand somebody a report of 20,000 metrics, but let's pick, 5 to 10. What are your key numbers that if you're looking at these numbers, it's going to be a better guide to you to make
Right.
better. And it's that focus of you've got to have enough what has happened
Yep.
and then looking ahead to figure out the forward looking, what could be going on, where are you trending, where are you heading? But I love that question. It's a great question.
Yeah,
um
because
yeah.
it's commonly like when I ask firms like, are you like a data oriented practice? Like, what are you tracking? Like the common thing I always hear is like, well, yeah, we have like, a really strong P&L and blah blah blah. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, to me, that is like the post-mortem report. It's
Yeah.
like this is all the stuff that has already happened. It's not revealing what can we do right now to unlock
Yeah.
more growth profit within the business. One thing I think every firm should be doing, like plaintiff-based law firm, is like doing client satisfaction surveys. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to me, that is a good leading indicator of the quality of service, the communication that's being provided, because, that ultimately is going to be the lifeblood of your business, is the quality of service you provide. And if you can continue to provide that, you're going to get more 5-star reviews, you're going to get more word of mouth, you're going to get more
Absolutely.
referrals.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
like, it's just little things like that. Starting to track it can start having such an immediate impact on
Yeah.
results. But again, I just keep hearing firms say, "Oh yeah, we have a good P&L, and we're making money." And it's like, okay,
Mhm.
it's good that you're making money. You probably could be making a lot more if you start tracking these
Right.
things and then doing
Yeah.
something about the data that you're looking at.
Oh, absolutely. I've had conversations with firms because sometimes it's not even you'll say, oh yeah, we wanted to hit 2 million in revenue. We hit 2.2 million this year. I'm like, well, that's great. But what's the like differentiation between the different like areas of practice? And, they'll say, well, I don't know. And if I dig through the bills, depending on how they do their billing, I can sometimes decipher that. And, I've had some firms that are like, oh, we did one bankruptcy or one divorce this year. And I'm like, why? Like, if that's just not your thing, you know how much time you had to put into that to get the money.
Yep.
It couldn't have been worth it because I know, as a CPA, like for me to sit down and do a tax return, oh my God, for me to do my own taxes, it would take me like a week to do my own tax return. There's no benefit. Like that's just a waste of my time. I need to hand it to somebody else. Say, here, you do this every day. You're more efficient at it. So sometimes just because you're making the money, is it the right, focus of your time? Is it the best use of your staff time? So
Do you recommend that all law firms do time tracking, even like ones that get like contingency fees like personal injury or workers' comp firms?
So that's a great question. So what I do, and this is what I do, and this is what I recommend. If you don't bill by the hour, I'm not a fan of hourly billing. I'll
Yeah,
just say that.
right,
So if you're not doing, obviously if you do hourly billing, you've got to track your time.
right.
But if you're either contingent or flat fee, whatever that looks like, my preference is to do a time study for like 1 week at a time. So, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And I do this for my firm. I'll say, okay, this is the week. So from Sunday to Saturday, I want to know every single thing that's being done by every person on every client, just all the things. And then be able to look at the end of the week. So then like next week, I would say, okay, let's see what was going on. And it's a whole combination. I have a series of questions that I go through. And it's first off, are the right people doing the right tasks? Are they doing it in the most efficient way? Can I get a tool that would make things faster? And then are we even doing things that matter? I've gotten to the end of the week and I'm like, why am I doing, whatever? I send this email every week to this client. They never read it. Like, what am I doing? So if they don't care, then what am I doing? And so then it's like this circle back and say, hey, I spend, a half hour every week doing this email. I don't think you read it because you never ask me questions. I sent the last email, the world's on fire, and you could care less. You didn't reply back. So I'm thinking you're not reading it. And I don't say it like that, but just like, hey, can we like not be doing this anymore? But and then just go through and what can I eliminate off my to-do list? I mean, that's a big thing. But no, I prefer time studies for blocks of time instead of doing like, because yeah, it's so inefficient to sit and try to track all your time all day long. And I know there's apps now that do it, but with some reasonable, but not it's reasonable, not exact. So, certain things
I
have to be ensured.
Yeah, I think that's a really great recommendation and happy medium to just. So
Yeah.
you do it quarterly or just
So
biannual?
I do it quarterly, but I have a lot of clients who are, I'll talk to them and say, hey, you should do this. And they're like, that's the whole reason I don't bill hourly. And I'm like, I know, but let's at least make sure people are doing like the right people are doing the right things. And, because what if you have somebody, you don't want your attorney spending time calendaring their stuff, right? So, if you can look through an attorney's time study and they're like, oh, I spent, 2 hours this week on calendaring, these cases. No, 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 no. Like delegate, delegate, delegate. And it can become a teaching moment to say, no, these things can be delegated down And it's it's efficiency and then like effective pricing. You need to be able to put your time, like spend your money wisely is what it comes down to. So
Yep. No, that's a great recommendation. Sorry,
yeah,
I'll
thank you.
stop
No, that's
the flip of the script here.
no, I love this. I honestly, I could sit and talk to you all day. I mean, this has been amazing. And like I just had a great conversation. Although I do have to say you're like the first guest to ever ask me a question. So I don't know if there's an award for that. We can make one, I guess. But I like this has just been a great conversation. And I really appreciate your time. Is there I think we're gonna put in the show notes a link.
Yeah.
You set up a page for listeners of my podcast. So I will make sure that in the show notes that contact information is there. So if people want to reach out to you and talk more, like this has just been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Kelly. And like we talked about before we hit record, I hope you join me on my podcast before the end of the summer.
Absolutely, it's a deal. Thank you so much, Bo.
Thank you.
Running a successful law firm takes more than legal expertise. It requires financial mastery, strategic planning, and data-driven decision-making. At my accounting firm, Profit Scale Thrive, we specialize in helping law firms achieve lasting profitability by providing tailored financial guidance, optimizing cash flow, and equipping you with the insights needed to scale with confidence. Ready to take your firm's finances to the next level? Join our private community for law firm owners called Your Profitable Law Firm Community. Each month, we dive deep into essential topics about the business side of running a law firm. This is your opportunity to connect with other firm owners, share challenges, and discover proven solutions in a supportive environment. Visit ProfitScaleThrive.com today to join our community and access resources specifically designed for law firm owners just like you. Have a question about today's episode? Drop a comment below. Know of another firm owner struggling with their finances? Share this episode. It might be exactly what they need. Click that subscribe button to get notified when we release new episodes with more practical financial insights for your firm. If you found value in today's discussion, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps other law firm owners find this content. And remember, profit is something you intentionally plan for in the beginning. It's not a potential bonus at the end of the year. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you inside the Your Profitable Law Firm community.